This conference will now be recorded.
Call to order the Monterey Select Board on December 19th at 6 p.m. We have all three members present here in Town Hall. Mary, as Susan, you just noted, Mary is planning on joining us for discussion of the town administrator position. So what we might,
You wanna try maybe payroll policy?
well,
That's
Nope.
Roger.
speak
Roger.
with Dennis. Since we
Oh,
have
okay,
Dennis
he's
here
right
today.
here, let's do it.
So the MVP grant program,
Right, okay.
which I know Dennis has written the last two grants, if I'm not mistaken, and then BRPC and Director of Operations and Melissa as Town Administrator have been involved as well. So do you have any updates or?
Sure. We received a day or two before the due date, we received an email requesting what they call an expression of interest to be submitted. And that was submitted last Friday, the 15th. And basically, an expression of interest is just telling the funding agency, in this case, the MVP program, this is our idea for the grant. And of course, as you mentioned, the first and second phases were funded by that agency, so this would be the third phase, the construction, bidding and construction phase, essentially the last phase. And we expect to receive some sort of comments either back verbally or in writing from the MVP program. Usually the regional coordinator would contact the prospective applicants. So probably in a week or two, we'll receive something back, thereabouts.
Two questions. Do you know the timeline for phase three as far as applications and whatnot? And then also, what's the monetary expectation from the town? And when is that due?
Sure. The timeline for release of the official notice regarding the grant would be probably either late February or March, thereabouts. Now, in the past, that has slipped a little bit, but usually the grant response for the application, if you will, is submitted by mid-June to the funding agency. And
Wait, I'm confused, what's February or March?
February or March would be the official notice that, and they post
That it's open,
Yes.
okay,
And so they're basically telling all the municipalities and cities that it's available on or about that month, February or March. And get back 2 months later, thereabouts, or 3 months later, depending on when they release it. Now, in terms of the project, since it's fiscal year 20, the application would be submitted if the select board chooses. And I would think it would be a 2-year process for that particular grant application, the construction and procurement. So we're looking at going into 26 and possibly even 27, depending on the availability of the funds. They look for either a single year or a 22-month, which straddles 2 fiscal years, application. So in terms of the funding, I would suggest that since the BRPC and GZA, the engineers, are currently working on that, finalizing that funding, that I believe they're planning to come in January before the select board, that at that time they could give you that more specific answer. What we have is basically, what was estimated back almost 2 years ago. So I'm sure that that's going to be fine-tuned.
Melissa, do you have any other comments or any things from BRPC? I know that you work with Courtney.
Yeah, no, Courtney just suggested it then as if you were considering writing the third one, which I think would like you
Hoping
to.
to.
Yeah, because she has quite a few other on her plate, that you just, if you can, start attending our monthly meeting with us, so we can get you up to speed on where
Sure.
we're at. Usually, I think it's the second Thursday of the month at 9. January, we have to move it to the Wednesday, so I can email you.
Yeah,
the
That
dates.
would be fine, sure.
Yeah, that's all she had, and they're coming on the 16th, and we'll have more firm numbers of what we think the town will.
Right, right. And at some point, should I submit that grant request form?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're also looking at possibly, there's another grant out there, I can't remember the name of it, it's a federal grant that might be able to help with the town's portion of it.
I think that's the brick grant.
I think they had a weird name like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Their VRPC is looking to write that one actually for multiple communities in hopes of getting the funding, because they'll have a bigger projects, and I think they're gonna propose a bunch of culverts. So they're hoping, I think that grant was like up to 20 million or something.
Yes, yes.
So that I think they're hoping that the larger project, we might all have a better chance of getting it. So we're still talking that all out right now.
Sure. And there might be another one. We'll see if, since the master plan talked about possible, I think one of the suggestions was consideration for the business district. Maybe mass development might be something to look further at to see if we would be eligible for that. If indeed that's in the final adopted master plan.
Okay, well, thank you, Dennis, and I think the way that we'll move forward is if you could attend the monthly meetings, that would be great, and then at some point, we'll be looking for a formal grant request form,
Sure.
and then we can.
So
look
that
at
we
all
can
the
approve it.
information. And it sounds like we have a meeting with BRPC and GZA
Yeah, I
in,
don't know if GZA is coming, I think they are, but it'll be on the 16th.
of January.
January.
Okay,
Okay, great.
all right, and I will probably see you there too.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
thank you, Dennis.
Okay,
Thank you, Dennis.
and have a happy holiday.
You
You as
too.
well. It's practically here.
16. Are they coming in at what, 6 o'clock? Okay,
We
thanks.
even have a time, perfect.
Okay, so Mary, I see you online, thank you for joining us. We are going to move to the position. So we did get a memo, an email from Mary, which mentioned places to advertise as well as I understand it, 3 possible processes, being that all through the select board, involving a screening committee, or involving and hiring a recruiter, which I assume would be, in this case, Collins Center. And then there was also some salary range data, which then Susan and Melissa followed up on today with more localized salary range data. So I guess things that we could work through tonight or would be processes, whether it be select board, screening committee, or recruiter, and then we could also discuss salary.
Mary, I'd also like to just get you to share with the board and with me as well. I did email you about it. I feel like the board needs to work together to create a short list of priorities that we think are the most important things in potential candidates. And I think that is important to do because it will help us have clarity when we choose a salary range. Because if we're really looking for higher level managerial and financial and planning and communication skills, we need to pay for those. And we need to have a clear picture of what we can expect to get for our money. And I think how we think of that job does influence what salary range we need to offer, and I'd like to hear from you of how you think we could go about doing that.
Okay, so happy to see you all. Happy holidays. I would suggest that I had sent a sample. I don't know if it got to everybody of a position profile, which really is a summary and a marketing tool. Whatever system you use for marketing or outreach, you would want to clarify not just the job description. Your job description is fine.
We don't,
But what
I don't think we have that, other than the one you mentioned that I looked at on the Collins Center posting.
Yes, I don't think I sent it out. We do have, right, so currently, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Is it me?
Yes. You're pretty clear to us.
You're clear,
We can hear
okay,
you
clear to you, okay.
fine.
You know, my husband says I'm always talking, you know, so I don't know. So what I would suggest is, depending on which way you want to go, yes, you can hire a recruiter. If the next agenda item goes forward, you actually, I could facilitate this process for you separate from a contractual obligation. So you could kind of do it if we end up coming to agreement, if you sign the contract, I can help you facilitate this process. You can then decide whether you want to have me screen candidates and give you finalists as that recruiter. Uh, Either way, I suggest that you each give some input on what your top priorities are, and then we could coalesce that data for a vote and a discussion. I think you need to narrow what it is you're looking for. Often we ask the questions, what are the challenges facing the municipality? What are the challenges facing the new or the incumbent? And what are the ideal characteristics for that position? I think the board as a whole needs to come to that. You can do that in a few different ways. You can discuss it as a group, or you could provide individual feedback, and I could summarize that for you at a next meeting. But I do think that you need to come up with what your priorities are, and that's how it should be advertised. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I could do I could send you all something to fill out, like a survey of what you're looking for. I could get those back individually, and then we could summarize them moving forward. It's really,
I think that's a good idea.
I think that's a good suggestion.
I think it's a really good suggestion, and I personally feel like last week, after we talked to you, I had the sense that we all thought using you and Collins Center as our recruitment would be a really good choice for us. It would be, takes it out of the venue of town, keeps everything confidential, and uses your services to best effect. I had the sense we all felt that way, am I correct?
Right.
I don't know if it's helpful to jump ahead to the contract, just so that we get that out of the way, because I think we might just get it out of the way and then we don't have that lingering.
sure. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be signed, so,
Yeah.
however you guys want to do it is fine with me.
Well, that's what we're gonna do, just because that's lingering in the air over our heads. Why don't we jump ahead to number 3, the contract with Collins Center?
I only have one comment,
Yeah.
which is that as I suspected might happen after our lawyer produced so many changes and there was the back and forth, it looks like we went back to the version that was before we had put back in Collins Center helping us if we had a complaint that needed an investigation, and that came back out. so it's not in there anymore.
Where is this?
It
What number
was
was that?
6, but now it's not there, so you can't really talk about something that isn't present. That was the only change I found that worried me.
I think, I will comment on that, and that is because, the wording throughout that is, we will assist the town in any action, and we will assist any attorney in any action. We hesitate, which is also why the comments that your attorney made were pretty drastic, because there was a liability with that on any investigation. So the wording that is currently in there certainly says, as warranted, we will assist the town. I would never advise you, if you had an investigation into something, to use only me. It would be in partnership with the attorney. So that's why that language.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for your clarification.
Sure.
Yeah. It says the town with investigations.
Oh, it's actually still in there.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, apparently it is still in there and I missed it. I apologize.
That being said, is there a motion to approve the contract?
I'll motion to approve the
I
contract.
second the motion.
Motion from Susan, second from Frank. Is there any other discussion before we vote to approve the professional service agreement with the Collins Center?
I just want to clarify something, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It is very clear, and I'm not sure if it's clear publicly, that this agreement is a consulting services agreement to the town officials. We would not be acting as your human resource director, and we will not respond to resident queries.
Thank
Unless
you.
in partnership with the town official.
Okay.
Yeah, that is clear to me,
Okay.
and I think we're working on finalizing our handbook, and one of the things that we really are gonna do is reflect that we don't have an HR director, we have a consultant who advises the select board and the town administrator primarily.
Sounds good.
And we're definitely aware of that and we are aware that we need to change the handbook we just spent all this time creating to reflect that change as well.
Okay, we will now vote on the agreement.
Yes,
Yes, from Susan,
Yes.
Frank
Yeah.
is a yes, and Justin is a yes, so that's unanimous approval.
thanks for your patience on that one, Mary.
Oh, no worries. It's too important to get it wrong.
Okay, so moving back to item 2, I know we don't have it countersigned and it's not in the books, but we've signed it
Oh,
here.
it's good faith. It's good faith.
I mean, I think like Susan said, and as Frank and I think nodded in agreement, we would probably like to use the Collins Center.
I absolutely would, not even
Yeah.
probably.
So out of those options, of the screening committee and select board and using a recruiter, I do see the advantages of the other two, but I think that the recruiter really makes the most sense for our situation. And to begin that process, would it be good if you sent us each kind of a survey or form to highlight our priorities and our thoughts moving forward?
Sure. We have a template that I would send out to each of you, and I would get your feedback and come back with a draft for you all to approve, and that would become what we would use to advertise and recruit.
And from that, we could create, how did you do, you had a name for it,
It's a profile.
of the-
Yes.
Okay.
And you can look at our webpage, or I could send you a link to it. There's one on our webpage for the town of Mendon. It's a helpful marketing tool, and we circulate that to direct recruit. You all could use it to recruit. And what's good about using us is that the emails and the resumes come directly to us, and it helps with confidentiality of candidates.
Mhm.
So just for clarification, we're saying we want to go the recruiter route and have her screen everybody in the select board and do the interviews?
So the way that I understand it, or the way that it's written here, is hire a recruiter to screen applicants and recommend candidates to the board. This is done less frequently, but can be a good in-between option as confidentiality is maintained for those who apply until they are deemed finalists interviewed by the board. But maybe you could speak to that a little bit more, Mary, of what exactly the process would look like
Sure.
for screening.
And what we could do for you, and again, it's once you decide what you're looking for, we would use that to do the advertising, receive resumes. What we don't want to do is violate anybody's confidentiality or hurt them in their current position if they're not meeting your needs. So what we would do is screen them, do a preliminary interview, and then present candidates to you. That could be 2, 3, 4, 5. More than that, I would doubt. You don't want to do that many. And it really is a matter of how many apply. It's a difficult market right now, and it just makes it's streamlined. If you use a larger screening committee, those are public meetings that need to be posted and executive sessions, and it takes more time to get people together. And so I do think this option is good for you, a little more efficient, and it keeps it's the responsibility of the board to appoint a town administrator, and it keeps it there.
Are there,
do you feel like we're in a position to have a conversation about the salary range, or do you think we should wait till we have a sense of what our goals are?
I would wait, quite frankly, because it depends on what qualifications you say you want, and that will impact what level of pay you may have to pay.
I also
Although
wanna. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, although if you have a budget constraint, we may as well talk about it now, but maybe wait until you've decided what the position is going to be before you do that.
so we're dealing with the usual municipal budget, right? So we have an approved line item for the year, which is a set amount. We've briefly discussed other funding sources, whether it's special town meeting, the reserve fund, if that is a route that we decide to go. But it's potentially premature to have those discussions, until we, have that preliminary discussion with you about priorities and needs and what kind of a salary range it would take to get there. So we have had, and it was just last week, I believe, we've had those discussions, so it's on our mind.
Right.
With different thoughts about, I think there's varying thoughts about different ways to move forward, but.
I
Correct. I heard you last week, so I know what you're contemplating, but let's get the duties in front of you and then maybe take that next step. There's all kinds of ways that positions get funded. There's short-term contract, there's amended contract, there's salary, transfers. All of those things are not at your disposal, but those are options to consider.
Thank you. All right, so each board member should expect an email from you in the next few days?
Yes, it would be this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mary.
I have a question.
Don Coburn.
Thank you. Mary, could you give us an idea of the range of cost that your services will be for this particular part of the contract?
No.
What are they?
I will tell you what we charge to do a full search is around $10,000. By paying under this contract an hourly rate, it will actually be less, particularly if you're not using a screening committee. So it will be certainly much more affordable to do it this way on the hourly rate than it is to meet with screening committees and doing all of that work, especially since we do not anticipate a large number of applicants. It's a tough pool out there.
Just to follow up on your question, Don, it should be a matter of public record that the rates of the contract, of the agreement that we just signed, the human resources practice leader hourly rate is $160 an hour, the senior associate is $125 an hour, and a management analyst is $60 an hour. So those will be the rates that we're working with for everything that we're doing with the Collins Center, just as a matter of public record. Which
And where
this
is
will
this?
be,
Where is this money coming from in the budget?
we had a budget in the neighborhood of 18,000, I could be off. We had a budget in the neighborhood of 18 to 20,000 that funded our human resources director that was shared between a few towns. When the employee who was filling that role put in her resignation, we considered trying to hire for an employee or to go with a consultant service. And we went with a consultant service. So we interviewed a couple of different consultant services and ultimately selected the Collins Center. But the money is the same line that was previously paying the HR director. So we just decided to fill that with a consultant rather than an employee. Okay, so thank you, Mary, for joining us, and we'll look out for an email from you.
All right, happy holidays,
Thank
and
you.
I will email you
All
all
right.
together, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now, be well.
You too.
So the next,
Just remember, no matter what, don't hit reply all. She may send them each to us individually, but even if she doesn't, don't hit reply all.
well,
I do wanna say one more thing about that, well, maybe two joint things about this. I'm gonna pitch again about the special town meeting, and I wanna put it differently than I did last time. I feel like the town was badly affected by the manner in which the current TA was hired. I think it envisioned and fast-tracked, and the promotion was made without any town input. And I don't wanna see us repeat that. It divided the town. We've worked really hard to reverse that. And please don't let us begin that cycle again, please. The process is important, not just the outcome. And I think we're setting ourselves up for a really good situation, and I know that politically, that meeting will be difficult. I'm not understating it, but I feel like we have to put our big girl boys in pants on and be leaders and tolerate the difficulty of that meeting for the positive outcome of having everybody on the same page and hopefully getting everyone to be supportive of whoever ends up in that position. And I think not doing the town meeting will have a bad impact on the town in other ways, no matter who sits in that office. So I just implore you, I know it will be a difficult meeting, I'm not understating it, I don't wanna do it, but I'll do it because I think it's the right thing to do. And that's all I can say about it. I also wanna say that looking at what's going on in all the other towns, right, on that list, Beckett, Egremont, Lee, Lennox, New Marlboro, Otis, Sandusville, Sheffield, Stockbridge, and even Tyrion have more than one person working for the town in administrative capacities, right? They call them all different kinds of things, town secretaries, administrative assistant. I don't even know that their jobs are all the same, but there's more than one person. Sometimes there's even 3 people. And I'm not even counting Great Barrington. New Marlboro has 3 people. They have the town administrator, they have, I think they're calling it an administrative secretary, I can't remember which one they call it. And then they have yet another person, one's doing 30 hours and then the clerk's serving 10 hours, according to Mark, right? So there are lots of other towns doing this, it would be new for us. But if we're having a town meeting, we could put on, because if we really want that town administrator to be serving those higher executive functions and having the time to be managerial and to be forward thinking and to write more grants and all the other things we envision them doing, we might need to give them that opportunity. The second part of it is, and maybe I'm just being risk averse, is that if we split that, it gives us a deeper bench, and it means that if we do end up as a stepping stone for other things with only an 18-month or 2-year tenure in that position, with all the turnover in the finance committee and all the turnover in the select board, at least we'll have one person or the other that's providing some institutional knowledge and backup for the town. And I know it's hard when we're a small town, but my goodness, if all these other towns can find it in their budget to do it, I think it might serve us if we're really re-envisioning the job, to do the whole thing and not try and do it piecemeal. Maybe people won't support it, but I think we should put it out there.
You make good points, and I definitely see you on the town meeting point especially. I definitely see that side of it, regardless of where I've come, what I've supported, or where I come down, I 100% see where you're coming from, and I don't discredit it at all.
Thank you.
I have my hand up.
Yeah, Don Coburn.
I want to correct one thing that you said, Susan, if I may. In fact, the issue of Melissa serving as TA was submitted to the entire town meeting. We gave the town meeting, the entire town meeting, a choice between making her continuing her as full-time and the TA, or going back to the old system. They voted with maybe 5 people against. Almost everyone voted in favor of continuing her in the position. So we did give it to them. And I think, by the way, that you ought to consider not having a special town meeting, but if this is going to go forward, submitting this to the entire town meeting.
Do we get copies of that? Okay. I thought I might have seen 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I just didn't know.
Thanks for reminding me, I was in the moment.
Okay. So the payroll policy has been a long time. There's a number of comments, but I think the most important thing to handle is on page 2 under policy. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to read here, but maybe I can pull up a.
Who's HSH?
Sarah Hunter.
Okay. Do you remember who that was?
Well, I was just in the document looking at it.
What are the numbers that follow the initials?
I think it's response 4,
Okay,
I think.
Yeah,
It's
because
like
you can see they
comment
go
4 by
4,
Justin.
5, 6, 7, 8,
Okay.
9, right?
right.
So there's a couple comments, I think that mostly got answered. But then the gist of it is just two different ways of saying the requirement of people keeping hours. So,
So we're talking where, procedures,
yeah,
policy?
policy, so
Okay.
the way that it could read is the certified record must include all time worked, clocking in and clocking out with the exception of the following positions: fire department, plumbing, gas and electrical inspectors, elected board of assessors, elected select board, police details, elected moderator, elected constable, elected board of health members, animal inspector, and the elected school committee representative.
It's all elected positions, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the way that,
The electrical and gas.
Well,
and
plus,
stuff there
it's
now.
elected positions plus something.
so I
No,
did.
no, yeah.
I did write it in a different way, and the drawback is it doesn't say specifically, but then it also doesn't say specifically, so that's a benefit as well, but we can also change the wording if we like the wording better, but you wanna make all salary, the way I have it, all salaried people are not required to clock in and clock out. If the board desires salaried people clock in and clock out, we can, but would rather write it broadly rather than list specifically, it would read like, well, it would read, this is how I have it reading. All employees paid on an hourly basis are required to record hours worked, time in and time out in the time and attendance system. Employees paid on a salary basis who are not enrolled in Berkshire County Retirement are required to record hours worked in the time and attendance system. Employees paid on a salary basis who are enrolled in Berkshire County Retirement may be required to record hours worked in the time and attendance system by their direct supervisor. Employees who are elected or otherwise paid a stipend are not required to record hours in the time and attendance system. So in both versions, obviously all elected offices are not clocking in and out. Berkshire County Retirement doesn't care, the town, doesn't, for elected positions, it just doesn't matter for buybacks or when you're in the system. Stipend, if you're on a stipend, even if you're not elected, they just count a stipend as 1 month for every year. So that doesn't matter, you could clock in and out on your stipend, but it's not gonna affect retirement, so.
The only reason to do it would be if we needed to have a sense of how long the job took, so that if we changed its status, we'd have some data. And I'm not saying it's worth doing it for that reason, that's just the only reason I could think it would be worth doing if we were to decide that.
Yeah, so that being said, I made my proposal, there's the list.
It's either list or by type of job.
By type of job.
I kind of prefer the type of job only because that would cover, it wouldn't have to be changed if we were to make an additional job that wasn't in the list.
Yeah.
Because really, there's no other category that I can think of, is there? It's either an hourly worker, a salaried worker, an elected worker, or a stipend worker. There's no fifth category.
Not that I'm aware of.
You like the crossed off one better, or you like Justin,
I like the
bigger
the
one?
bigger one. The non-crossed off one. The one that's by type of job rather than by job title. It's complicated.
That's because the job title one, I think, is missing the tree warden as well.
Well, and whatever list we put in there could, like, every time we change or add or do something, then it changes the list.
So then the other question is, we all know if you're working hourly, you're putting in your hours, right?
Right.
And we know if you're elected, you're not. If you're a stipend, you're not. The sticking point I know we've had in the past is just salaried employees. And the way that I write it makes it so that if you're a salaried employee and your direct supervisor doesn't want you to put in your clock in and clock out, you don't need to. But on the other hand, it's a little clumsy, because it could be a salaried person who's not in Berkshire County retirement, and then they are.
Just to use that word may. You know.
What's that?
When you say there, you're leaving it open-ended.
Well, it's leaving it to the discretion of the direct supervisor.
I know,
So if the,
yeah, but if there's a problem with the retirement, they're not going to the supervisor.
yeah,
You know.
so it could, well, once you're in Berkshire County retirement, they also don't care about your hours. If
Actually,
you're salaried, it's only if you aren't in Berkshire County retirement, you go to buy back.
Okay.
So if you're salaried and you're paying a Berkshire County retirement, they care how much money you're putting in, not how many hours you're working.
Right.
That's why I have it written that way. That's at least how I understand it from,
also,
Well, I think they do care about the hours, because if you happen to dip down below, then you're not eligible anymore.
yes. In that sense, they would.
And my only concern with guys, by making it the direct supervisor, is you're kind of, why does that department have to do it? And I don't have.
Yeah,
I think you should just make it everyone.
I agree with that. You
if
leaving
you
it
pity
open-ended,
people,
So,
it's that 1/10 of 1% that could go wrong, it could do that.
so it could be,
salary basis were, if they're salary employees who are not enrolled in the system, they have to record their hours. If they're a salaried employee
who is in
who
the system?
is enrolled in the system, they might have to, or they might not have
It
to.
says maybe.
So I still stand by it really at the end of the day, because if you're a salaried employee and you're working 30, 40 hours a week, 30, 40, 50 hours a week, Berkshire County retirement really doesn't need to know your hours, and
Okay,
it's
now I
not
see
really
what
a
you're saying.
requirement.
Right,
That being said, if this board is more in favor of just keeping things simple, streamlined, and uniform, it can just simply read, all employees paid on an hourly or salary basis are required to record hours worked, time in and time out in the time and attendance system. Delete the 2 sentences about salary employees, and then have the sentence about
elected.
elected or stipend. It's that
Certainly
simple.
cleaner, like it's simpler, and I guess other than the slight nuisance of recording their hours, if having done it, I don't think, I mean, I have done it, not in this system, but I've definitely done it, and it was never a big deal. So I sort of feel like it's not a big deal, and it provides some data, and it covers anybody who might wanna be in the system. I don't really see the downside, except like a little bit of paperwork or clicking work or whatever you wanna call it.
So, is that the same page that you're on?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would propose is all employees paid on an hourly or salary basis are required to record hours worked, time in and time out in the time and attendance system. Delete 2 sentences, employees who are elected or otherwise paid a stipend. ... And then we won't have the individual list. That would be my proposal.
Thanks for like spending that time on this, because I'm sure it was not straightforward or easy to come up with that. And the wording's pretty good.
Just other comments, I think Melissa, you and Sarah kind of answered everything.
Does anything under procedures actually have to change with all those comments, or is it already changed, or what's the status? Cause it's a lot of comments, so.
Well, so one comment I had was putting stipends in, so stipends are in, got added in to the list of
Yep.
things that you could put in for. I mean, I had a lot of informational questions that weren't.
There's nothing wrong with that, I'm just trying to ascertain whether at the end of the day, something needed to change as a result of the informational questions.
I think the only one that maybe you guys should discuss is under procedures, the third bullet was the signing, that you had raised a concern about that you're actually signing it after people are paid. And I think we offered a solution that the town administrator could sign just to get it processed, and then, if you guys wanted to do that, but.
Wait, this is the third bullet?
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna add page numbers to it, under procedures, this one.
I mean, I have
This
this,
one.
but then we
Justin's
sign it,
comment.
we're signing it,
This is also procedures.
so direct deposit is hitting on Thursday, and we're signing it the following Tuesday. So, we're not like a day late, we're we're weekly. So, and I have no problem with it, because whenever I've found the few times that I have seen something, it just gets corrected, right? We have access directly into accounts, right? I one time had a thing and it got pulled. So I just want to reflect what's going on. So the accountant prepares the payroll warrant. Is it signed by the accountant?
No, the treasurer, where is this?
It must be
Yes.
signed by the accountant as authorization to the treasurer. So is it signed by the accountant before it hits direct deposit?
No, because the treasurer actually processes it and then she sends those, the file from Harper's to the accountant. They prepare the warrant a few days later. It's already basically Wednesday or Thursday when it's being direct deposited, and then you guys get the warrant that Monday or Tuesday, so.
Sunday
So
night.
essentially the horse
The
is out
whole,
of
yeah,
the
the
barn
whole
already,
process
right?
is, because the accountant doesn't get it until the file is uploaded to them and then they can create a warrant.
So what it should really just read is the payroll warrant must be signed by the accountant and the town select board after the treasurer releases the payroll checks and direct deposit advisories.
If you wanna reflect what's actually happening, yes.
Yes.
I think it would be good to reflect what's actually
Well,
happening. That's me
I mean,
too.
it's, I don't think that's what's supposed to happen, but like we said down here, the labor laws trump, you have to pay what people are owed, so.
I mean,
It's low risk,
That's how- Right. it's
because
very-
when there's an issue, so one time, someone who worked 10 or 15 hours a week put in for 75 hours in a pay period on accident, I believe.
Right.
It's low risk, because I believe the town kind of has the authority to go in and just take the money out. It actually happened to me one time, many years ago. Money just got taken out. I was surprised, but supposedly we have that authority. I mean, it is very much an inconvenience to the person who gets the money in their account, but that's gonna happen. That could happen even if the select board sees it first. So that being said, I think it should just reflect how we do it, and it is what it is, and
I mean, I would be inclined to say that the procedure perhaps should be that someone is looking at those numbers before the paychecks are issued.
Right, so myself.
But I guess
and
the reality just isn't able to do that.
Before the thing is even uploaded to the accountant to create the warrant, it's been looked at by all the department heads, then myself, and then the treasurer. And then she ends up sending it back to me one more time to look at.
Okay. I mean, we're trying pretty
Right.
hard,
I mean,
so
we
the
still
number of
look-
errors are
Right.
low.
We've missed a few here and there because it doesn't like stand out, like, they're so small.
All right, so do we have clear wording on how
Yeah,
we're changing
I
that?
would just say after, instead of as authorization, so after the treasurer releases the payroll checks and direct deposit advisories.
Summary, the accountant and the town select board after
The
the
treasurer.
treasurer releases the payroll set.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I would motion to approve the payroll policies and procedures as amended.
Second motion,
Is there any other discussion? Call vote,
Yes,
yes, yeah.
and yes, so that's approved unanimously. So unless you had just those, there was the one change in this paragraph, which you had, and then the other change we just discussed.
and thank you for all your work on it, both of them, appreciate it. Finally, we got that done. Woo-hoo, another one bites the dust.
So ARPA, there's nothing groundbreaking or earth shattering.
Yes.
But we did, a couple things happened that made me think the board should really bring it up. One is that the playground is done, finalized
Mhm.
and paid for. So we can adjust us with a small amount that figure. And then the other thing is we are just about 1 year away from when funds really do need to be allocated. So as projects go along over the next year, if we notice this project's not happening or this project's under budget, we should be diligent to allocate those funds differently in order to make sure that they're all allocated properly. But I don't know what happens at the end of that year, but we have had something like 3 years.
Well, who's doing the historical society?
That's a good question. The historical society is primarily, I think, Rob Hoogs, and then the historical commission is chaired by Barbara Swan.
Right.
And they are, the historical commission is an official town organization.
Mhm.
The historical society is a nonprofit. The historical commission, up until a year and a half ago, was the historical district study committee, which is a very neutered version of the historical commission. Historical commission kind of has a broader reach, and one of the things the historical commission does is explore the historic district.
Mhm.
I think just a small point on the historical district. The church right now is selling, in part because it sounds like they're not able to be property owners and really keep the building maintained.
Right.
They are, as I understand it, already one of 4 buildings, don't quote my number, but I think that there's 4 buildings in town that are registered historic buildings.
Mhm.
The Bidwell House, the house on Terringham Road with the stone pillars,
Yeah,
the church, and then I think the Brewer House at the corner of 23 and Sandusfield Road. If we were to make it, there's certain funds that are available to upkeep those buildings. Especially if you keep within the period
right.
architecture design, as I understand it. If you make the whole center of town a historic district, funds would open up potentially to all of those buildings. And we're seeing places like the church not be able to maintain their building and have to feel like they have to sell it. Now, that being said, the church is a historic building. They're already aware of those funds and eligible for them, so
They don't have
I don't know
the
whether
resources.
I don't know where that puts us, but
It may, I mean, it might be that they required matching funds, or it might be, like, there could be a lot of other.
they do. It's a,
Right,
the one that I'm most familiar with is a 50-50.
and if what you need to do is $500,000, and you can't even raise 50,000, never mind 250,000, the match isn't gonna help you. I mean, it's a good theory, right, like, I mean, just knowing what building and repair costs for older buildings are, it can be a bitter pill.
But that being said, hopefully, the fact that it's a historic building may help the next owner.
Yes, it may help
Assuming it
somebody,
gets
yes, agreed.
And so that money is, and now that you say it, Frank, it is a little unclear to me whether it's the historical commission or the historical society. And we should really iron that out.
I think it was the historical commission.
Well, I don't know, because
Let me just see who filled
Yeah.
out the request.
But that money, basically, when you go to be a historical district, the government puts up all of these
Fun.
obstacles and
Yeah,
hoops
well, yeah.
to jump through.
Yeah.
And instead of just me or you writing in and saying, we have a lot of old buildings in the center of town, let's be a historic district, they really want you to hire someone to do a professional job.
Yeah.
So some National Register historic districts that you may be familiar with, the center of New Marlboro is a historic district. I think there was a village in Sandusfield that was recently designated, I think it was New Boston. I think Otis is going for it. I think, is Southfield a historic district?
I don't know.
There's that typical sign that you see.
Say, right, I know what you're talking about.
That's what that money's for.
Yeah.
But we're a couple years into it being allocated, or 1 year, so it's good to check in.
Mhm. Is that Barbara or is that, Bob?
Stand corrected, it does say the historical society, but it was thrown because Barbara was the one that submitted it.
Yes, and
She's on the historical
I think she's on the historical society, but I think Rob Hoops is the president. but I could be
Of the
mistaken,
society at this point?
of the
Okay,
society.
not the commission, just
The
the check.
commission.
Yeah, the commission is the society.
So,
Yeah.
all that being said, I mean, it would be really good to just check in, where are we at, are you still expecting to spend that amount of money? Because we have a year left to go and we want to get everything squared away.
While we have Peter here, since his numbers are on here too, so we, according to this, we approved 15,000 from the ARPA monies for the solar to Monterey, and you guys have used 2896.25.
Because there's no movement with the fire company.
Okay. So it's possible the remainder would be used if they were going forward, and if not, not. Yes?
We've principally been working on the community shared solar array on the town landfill.
Mm-hmm.
And DOER was concerned about overlap between ARPA funds and DOER funds. So as it's set up now, any work we do to provide rooftop solar for the firehouse or pavilion or battery storage there, or a charging station there, any of that stuff would come out of the ARPA funds.
Right.
And the other comes out of the DOER funds.
And it all comes, right, and it all, I understand the separation, I approve, it all comes down to whether the fire company is going to allow us to go forward with that. Correct?
Well,
And
no,
we
but
need to get-
they're just giving us the plan.
Pardon?
With the ARPA fund, part of the ARPA fund was just to have a plan to put solar on there, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I haven't gotten any traction with anybody in the fire company to take steps to get plans.
So basically, does it make sense to pay to get a plan if the fire company is essentially opposed to having it?
Well,
in
by
any
doing
wise?
nothing is the message.
Pardon?
They're doing nothing. If
And
they're
I
not
think
doing
that's the
nothing,
message, right?
it's the message.
It might be, but
But I mean, there's still time left.
Yeah.
We can-
But we might need to get clarity on that so we can decide whether to go forward or not. That was always trying to ascertain. What's the status of the Fox Hill site? Plan.
I'm still working on it.
Okay,
We're waiting on foresight, essentially, right?
so that's the three that aren't really, and then we know where the community center is more or less, right?
So essentially, we have up to 35 of those designated as a match for the feasibility study, depending on how that grant all plays out.
Which would leave like 53-ish if
Yeah.
we're within the time slot and could go
If
forward
it's-
with that.
You said it was 30,
35.
35, so you're like.
So, oh yeah, sorry,
47,
a little less than 50
40
then.
or 48.
So,
But, if you talk to Dennis on his grants, we should do like a map or a calendar. Because, the problem is if that doesn't work out, you only got so much time to spend the money.
Point taken.
well, we do have till 2026. We don't have a year to
26.
spend the money. We have a year to allocate it.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know how strict they're gonna be.
Yeah.
And so first of all, a little background, when they first came out with ARPA funds, they said they need to be used for these very specific purposes and that's it. And they came back a few months later
You said do whatever.
and
you
said, if you're a town of less than so many, and it was much higher than we are, the reporting guidelines are minimal.
want. Mhm.
So they did essentially, no, you know what they said, if you're a town of under, was it a 10 million budget or something? Then you could just use it to offset tax, you could use it for any general government thing to offset tax. So I don't know, I mean, this is everyone's first time going through ARPA, I don't know if in a year they're gonna say you need to know the vendor, or if in a year it's gonna suffice to say, we're gonna do something at the community center property. And then we could use for, to
If you're
pay the
saying we
tax,
have till 26 to do it?
to spend.
the money, okay.
We have till the end of 24 to allocate. We have the end of.
By the way, is that
26
FY 24 or
to spend.
2024?
No, it's December 2024.
December.
Yeah, you're
I
looking
imagine in October, September, I'll probably start getting emails saying that you're gonna have to fill out this report of where it's allocated to.
Okay.
But we just don't really know, but I would like to, as much as possible, get a jump on it.
I'll give Rob a call and maybe he'll his number.
Yeah.
So see what he says.
Okay.
And I guess Peter will play it by ear over the next months about the fire company, and maybe if that, just throwing it out there, maybe if it doesn't work to put it on the fire company, those could be the first funds toward installation or the next funds along in the cap landfill project.
Could be,
Because right now, we're basically paying for design.
pardon me?
Right now with the meta grant, we're basically paying for design, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the construction costs, and I don't know what the private-public partnership, I don't know where all that's headed. But I assume we might need some money, and so maybe we say, the fire company doesn't want solar, but we could take that 12,000 and put it towards the cap landfill site in one way or another, potentially.
Potentially.
But that might also prevent you from trying to beat a dead horse, knowing that the money could still benefit solar and Monterey in a way.
That would be appreciated.
Oh, one thing, the only thing I did wanna do tonight is if we could just vote to cap the playground and just say we spent $90,009.91, and that's all we're planning on spending.
I will second that, if that's a motion.
That is a motion, so the motion is to cap the Parks Commission playground ARPA project at $90,009.91. Second,
Yes.
Yes,
and yes, so that's approved, that just frees up that other,
$446.40. And they came in under budget.
Well,
Doesn't always happen.
only because we were a little flexible
I
at the
agree.
outset.
And yeah, agreed.
Did you have other questions about solar?
I'm interested in knowing what the plan is for any town meeting before May, because we would like to organize the public hearing before the planning board in time to bring it to a vote at the earliest possible town meeting.
So, here's my review, my recap. After the last special town meeting, which we were forced to call by the 8 towns, and we probably wouldn't have called otherwise. It became my opinion that the bylaw review work was the driving force behind a special town meeting. And I was hoping that, frankly, by now we would have the bylaw reviewed and posted on our website and available here, so that it would tee us up for a special town meeting in January or February.
By the way, my husband said that he sent you
Yeah.
the review, and
I'm
I
getting
haven't heard
there.
back.
I'm getting there. So, the bylaw review committee had a lot of momentum the past couple years, and then they stopped meeting. And I told the bylaw review committee that I would try to look through what they had. And I haven't done it. It's a long document, and I just haven't done it. Maybe I can take the holiday break, we're not meeting next week, to try to get a jump on that. I know from what I've been told, it's close, it's maybe 90%, maybe even more, but it needs a final touch up, and either someone here needs to do it, or the bylaw review committee needs to do it, but it needs to, apparently, as I understand it, it kind of needs a final touch up, and we just haven't done it yet, and I have it's probably been sitting in my email for at least a couple months.
He seems to think that my impression from my husband, and again, it's just my impression, is that he thinks it's as good as we're gonna get from the committee, and he thinks it's pretty good.
Okay,
But that doesn't mean we will share that opinion, but that is his opinion.
yeah, and I did talk to him in person a couple months ago, and I said, send it to me, I'll look over it, and we'll go from there. And like I
I
said,
had other
he's
things on your
just
plate,
had-
it's not,
so-
I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm just saying, I think that they think it's pretty close to there, so.
But I just wanna add that there are some other driving forces that you are gonna need a special town meeting late January, early February.
Yeah.
For the transfer station, IT, when we get that number, mailing the warrants, if you're gonna put the recall back on there. Potentially the fire department capital, depending on how the lease conversations go.
And bylaw changes,
Bylaw
zoning, the
changes.
zoning for solar.
And general.
And just for perspective, after the DPW budget meeting, we're talking like $40,000 for the transfer station,
More,
so.
because of Roger trucking.
Not totally, because we didn't have the compactor and, the little error that Jim and I made in originally calculating the budget, but yeah. The number of hauls, because we didn't have the compactor for so long. So,
And the price of the new compactor. Rental. Jim is, this is a sidebar here, but Jim is looking into whether it would be possible for us to, or lack of a better word, rent to own it, or even just buy it, because I suspect it would end up being less expensive, and I think you know the story of what happened with the other compactor, that we offered to buy it from.
Yeah, did they
Casella?
cut it up or something?
Yes, they did. They said, no, we won't sell it to you. They were gonna take it. They came down here, instead of just taking it, they actually deconstructed it on site in order to load it onto a truck to take it, and happened to mention while they were doing that, that they had no need of it because they had 3 more sitting in their lot. So I cannot say that that was a particularly good business decision. They were offered money for something that they literally just destroyed to make their point.
and then they asked the highway to help them load it up, I guess.
So it was definitely a situation. I don't think anyone could have predicted that would have occurred. I certainly couldn't have. But anyway, it's enough money that I don't think we can choose not to deal with that.
Yeah, we won't be able to pay past like February.
Really?
Well, if it keeps going with the hauling and tonnages that we've been averaging.
Okay, so that might be the answer, when we need money to haul away trash from the dump.
Do we know when that might be?
By the end of February, from the sound of it.
In all seriousness, so we're not meeting again until January, right?
The select board.
The select board. And we're not gonna be signing a town meeting warrant then, and we need 14 days of notice. It's gonna take us a couple weeks, I would say the earliest is gonna be February. But we'll let you know as soon as we do.
But
Okay.
it sounds to me as though if there needs to be a series of planning board meetings, because it's a zoning bylaw change.
The only step left to take, the planning board has read the bylaw proposal, the solar bylaw proposal, they approved it. The only step left is a public hearing.
Then they should go ahead and do it.
Right.
I would suggest that they do that as soon as possible.
There has to be a certain amount of time, I don't know what it is, to organize and hold the public hearing. And then there's another window for the proposed, publicly heard bylaw proposal to come before voters at town meeting. I believe that period is 6 months.
Right, so if they were to go ahead at their next meeting to make the decision to hold a hearing and post it, and then hold a hearing, if we're gonna have a meeting sometime in February, even if it's the end of February, that's certainly within the 6 months.
Right.
And if they wait a month to do it, they're gonna miss the timeline again.
And even if it goes to May, if
It's
your
still
6
6
month
months, yeah.
timeline's right, let's say let's say no one brings trash to the dump, to the transfer station for the next 2 months.
Where do you live?
And we don't need to do it, that hearing is still valid for May, supposedly. So they should just do the hearing, right?
As soon as possible.
Sooner rather than later, so that they don't.
Yeah.
Usually what happens is they run out of time.
Well-
I don't think it's ever happened that they did it too soon.
There was another, item that I read in something that Rob Hooves, and I was trying to find it right now, but I couldn't. That said, if 65 days elapse between, a proposal and then you have to start over. You have to, so I don't know if that time has expired. I would think so. October 14th, was it, or something?
So I think what we had decided to do essentially was to just bring a new
Do-over.
do-over, because there were a couple, I mean, we don't need to, but there were a couple issues that Rob and I think you found
I don't remember.
right before last year's special town meeting.
The October town meeting.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember there were some emails back and forth between you, me, Rob. I think there were other people involved as well. But Rob, there were a couple things that could be changed on the floor, but Rob said if we bring this up again, we'll probably change them.
Okay, I'll look for
Anyway,
that, I'll
yeah.
look for that correspondence, but, I don't remember the details. I know that town council, I thought that town council had also looked at the proposal.
Yes, I think so. I think there were just some minor changes. I'm sure we can find the emails. And the idea just being that when we brought it back next time, it could be clean.
And
Just
not need to make any changes on the floor.
You know what else we're doing is we are meeting with the planning board probably next month. So we can touch base with them, and it's possible we know when we're having a special town meeting by then.
Good, okay,
But the sooner you encourage them
yeah.
to set a hearing date, the better, because it just takes so much time and they only meet twice a month.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you, Peter.
thanks for your persistence.
you're welcome.
What do we have to, TA items?
So you all picked winners for, different winners for the category, so what I did,
I
it's
knew it was
okay,
gonna
because
happen.
you all consistently voted for one, so one door got 3 votes, and then 2 other departments got 2 votes each, so I think it's fair to say that the police department got 3 votes.
Okay, that's,
Highway got 2, and the building department got 2. So I would just say that those are, but you picked them for different categories, you know, like, one of you thought it was classic, one of you thought it was festive.
I thought I put highway for creative.
Yeah.
That's
To
funny,
me,
I
it's
put,
creative.
I put it as as traditional or festive because like it's a wreath and a garland, that seems as classic as you can get.
But the cat logo isn't usually there. That's part of
No,
the
yeah,
decoration.
he actually painted the door, because they have to replace
Oh.
it, so he painted it.
That's what I did?
Yeah.
I didn't realize
That's
that.
why I put creative, because they put heavy equipment,
Colors on it. Yeah.
brand,
Yeah.
name, so yeah, okay.
But I think, you guys all came up with
The
the
same
same people,
so,
just
yeah.
for different.
Reasons.
Okay, so that's good.
And who's like, where did that impetus for this come from? Remind me, I think you said originally, but I just want a reminder.
Have some, holiday cheer here, and people are starting to get a little.
Okay, well,
So, and it definitely, I will say to you that the atmosphere was like crazy happy, like, every day someone was coming in to see whose door got decorated and what they did and how they could compete with the police department's door.
Everybody trying to up the
Oh,
ante
everybody
on
was trying
decorations.
to.
Positive harnessing of competitive spirit.
It was nice, I think, and I think everybody's already planning their door for next year, so.
Love that.
So the budget items, I just wanted to, I'm trying to finish up the 2 sheets that I helped fill out for you guys, and IT, we still need to wait.
yeah, he didn't want to do, we're waiting a while.
I guess the guy,
What are you waiting on Wally for?
some numbers.
But
Well,
we,
aren't we getting numbers from everybody?
Well, we wanted to take what Wally, we had the call with him, and he had him give that description, give us a more formal proposal,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna ask for others, but, so we're comparing apples to apples.
Mhm.
But we met over a week ago, and and then he wrote an email to you yesterday, because we talked about it, he said,
right. And I checked in with him this morning, like, hey, he did give us rough numbers. I mean, we kind of figured for
Well,
special town meeting, we would need about 10 to
1,000,
12,000.
yeah,
to
it'd
bring
be
us
like,
to June.
to do the, you could take him for, just to be the support guy for ITs, it's 2,000 a month, and then to put a security, on the connection, it was like 500 and then $171 or something.
So what you need from them is
Well,
clear
we're-
categories, so you can
Well,
use exactly the same
this would be a
categories?
short gap,
Okay.
because we don't have the money, then we would do a more bigger investment after we did this. This would get us to the next financial year.
I was just trying to be clear about, you said you wanted a written thing from them so you could compare apples to apples.
Apples, yeah.
So what you need is the categories that are.
Well, there's some of it's the technical terms.
Okay.
That being said, when we initially did interviews, the way I remember it, and it wasn't apples to apples, it was apples to oranges, as they say.
Definitely.
But John Shannon's company, that I can't remember the name, did come in a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Is John on the, he's,
I don't think so, but I will double check.
Jack, we checked with the one company that we got they're not on the state contract list. That doesn't mean we're gonna ask them, that's the email we use. But, I can go back to the other contract.
Then if we use them, we'd have to actually do an RFP.
Yeah. Mhm. But some of
Which might
that,
not be a
Yeah,
terrible thing, but it's a
Depending on the
reality.
price, or just we have to do it
If it's over 50,000, yeah.
a year?
no,
Sorry, we didn't told him yet.
No, just straight from his face.
I think John Shannon said he could do the town for something like 10,000 a year. And I'm not saying that if it's lacking in deliverables, it's lacking in deliverables, but I didn't realize it'd be 50,000.
That's gonna be more than that.
well, it's initially gonna be more than that, and then it goes down to around, I think.
30, right?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, I could go home, I got it sitting there and looked at it today, because I was hoping to get.
It's still a big jump from 10.
Well,
Or from what we're spending now.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
yeah, but I don't know how you get around it. I mean, you can go cheaper, but I think, the proposal, Roger worked with us on it, and having them be the gatekeeper of everything, and we're going to the cloud, we did done the tax assessors, the tax collectors all going to the cloud.
And are they gonna be more responsive than they're being to give you the numbers?
What, we already have it.
I mean, they're being responsive as like, we're gonna get it to you, but the email I got today was that guy Jason, one of them has been out of the office for a couple days. And,
Holidays.
it could be the time of year as well,
Yeah.
and not making excuses.
I'll write the guy that came in earlier this year, I know enough to at least start getting numbers on it.
So that was one. The other one was, what you'd like me to put in for HR, should I just, it was 19,000.
That's HR, administrative assistant, select board secretary. Let's come back to next week. Can we get hours? Can we get where we're at this year? HR is gonna be tough, we're starting from scratch. But Melissa, you did get to me the hours that Kate had worked and Lori had worked in those positions. That's good to know.
So then,
That's,
I need that, what you guys decide with the office assistant, administrative assistant, and then, legal, like you and I talked about. I can,
with town council,
you want me to-
Legal what?
did we,
Town council.
did we talk, yes, we talked.
You and I
about
talked
it.
about
I
it.
forgot that we, yes, you're right.
And what was? Like anything you can update us on since we're over?
Oh, no, he just wanted me to get some numbers, I can just tell you what has been spent
Thank you, what's been spent,
so
that's, I didn't
far.
catch.
I was just trying to get a good sense, and it's hard sometimes with the reporting
5,600
On
on
council,
legal so far,
until,
and I believe that's through October.
what was the?
They're like a month behind when they send us the
That's-
bills.
and then we're a couple weeks late to
Right,
pay.
to pay,
Right.
so for the posting, so
So
What was the
July,
budget?
August, September,
21.5.
October, it's 4 months, and they're at 5,600.
That's not terrible.
So that put us at 22,400 for the year,
Yeah.
roughly.
we have
I mean,
21.5.
assuming it's consistent, which I think
It's
is
not.
probably more intermittent than consistent, and it's unpredictable, but
It's unpredictable.
Yeah.
I think it's unpredictable, but in the same, at the same time, it does kind of even out.
and you gotta use something. It's the
So,
number we have,
So
so
those are just the numbers I need to think about.
great.
And I will be sending out, we had a couple meetings today, I will be sending out a document today that shows who's had the meeting so far, so you can just see where the requests are coming in with a little summary of what we talked about in each of them.
did you, by the way, Melissa, am I scheduled in for that one day that I was available for a few meetings?
I put you on for
Really?
I believe so, let me just,
Okay.
the schedule will be in the workbook too, you were on from basically 9 o'clock to 11, I'll call it noon.
Okay,
Yeah, all morning
I'll put it in the calendar.
on the 8th.
I have myself down for the tree warden at 10 on the 8th. Is he taking that one? and
Yeah,
which is
sorry,
that one?
you wanna take that one?
Yeah.
Because it falls right in the middle, so.
I don't care, I'm happy to
If
come in
you-
for it if you wanna have a break so you can, have a snack or
Yeah, Susan, if you wanna come in, you should come in, cause I've sat in on tree warden. a couple times.
Okay,
Then you attend the 15th tree warden.
not a problem. About 15 minutes of glory.
And this week, Frank, we have you tomorrow for the community
You
center,
center.
and then
Yeah,
you're on Thursday.
clerk,
For the fire department.
No, the clerk,
Well,
I
she's got the fire department, and then you got the clerk on Thursday.
I got the meeting with them tomorrow. Afternoon.
Okay. So we'll come back to those. We do have hours available for review for certain positions, we should get, by now, we should have November.
What do you mean?
Like for select board secretary, that's been a work in
Okay.
progress.
Great, can you share those numbers with the rest of us so we have them?
Yeah, Melissa just, got 'em. I had just asked for Melissa, got 'em. Me.
That's fine, but I'd like them,
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
not jealous.
one other thing, that I'm just finding.
It'll come to you, it's okay, interrupt whatever we're doing and when it comes to you, so we get it. I'm sure it was worth Do you have anything else, or are we at minutes?
No, just unanticipated, the Concom has asked me to look into, the mitigation that they want to propose for, the Cronk Road thing. They just asked me a couple questions. I'm gonna run it by accountant tomorrow to see if he can answer it, but if he can't, I just wanna know if it's okay if I reach out to council.
Yeah, what's the problem?
They wanna know, A, where it's gonna go for the fund, if they say like, you have to give us, $10,000 to, instead of replanting, how they can spend it. if-
Who's giving who 10,000?
I'm just throwing a number out there, don't get excited.
Any money.
Yeah, right, so,
Any money.
because like,
A dollar.
say the Concom says because where those poles are being proposed on Cronk Road, because it's in a wetland, usually when you're taking it out, you have to remediate it and replace it somewhere else. But they're thinking of possibly saying, instead of remediating, you're just gonna give us this amount of money and we'll plant trees somewhere.
So, you remember when the library project happened and then trees were planted in the Gould Farm field?
Mhm.
Is that just the same idea?
Yes,
Okay, and we just need to know the right
Yes.
hoops to go through for
right,
that?
in case they don't want their, to do the planting if they want, if National Grid's gonna be against that or whatever, not in favor, they just wanna have options. So when they have their meeting in January, they wanna know what they can do, and if they choose the money option, how does the Concom get to spend it? Does it get locked up in one of the existing accounts that we have?
Well, but can't the Conservation Commission, like they did with the library project, say, you're planting, I don't know who did the planting, but you're planting trees at Gould Farm Field.
I haven't been to the Concom meeting, so I'm not sure how they got to the money. I don't know if there's been talk about.
But what I don't understand is if it's really all about environmental, and you wanna do, okay, you're damaging the environment a little bit to get people electricity, so help the environment here. Just money sitting in an account doesn't necessarily do that, and like the money that sat with the Concom for, yeah, a lot of it's still sitting there. That didn't do anything for anyone, it's just money sitting in a bank.
I guess the question is, if National Grid is willing to pay money so that gets done, but isn't willing to see to the doing of it themselves, where do we put the money when they give it to us? And then who is charged with seeing that the money gets used for its intended purpose? And is there a timeline for that? That would be the
Okay.
questions I
Right, that's
would
what they're
ask.
asking, and, because they just wanna know what their options are. Like, if the accountant or council or tells them that they can't create that kind of account for that specific purpose, then they're left with the only other option,
Which is you have to do
which
it
is you have
yourself.
to do it yourself.
And I mean, and we're not, I don't think we're limited to Gould Farm, for example. I would think that maybe if trees, they did a bunch of logging in Big Willows. Maybe there could be trees planted there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the only reason, it wasn't even about Gould Farm, it was that
Right.
there's fields there.
Right.
And there's a river.
Oh, it's a riparian habitat.
There was too much mowing too close to the river, so the trees were planted close to the river to create a
I
buffer
remember
zone.
that now.
And they put steel posts, I was there for a short amount of time, they put steel posts that it can't be moved over.
Gotcha.
I'm hoping that Eric will be able to answer it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, contact Donna if you need to know what the options are. I know I sound late, but the minutes of 11:28,
Sent them after 5:40.
yeah, I didn't think it was that late, but I also thought I sent them once and then looked and I hadn't sent them, so. But we should be able to get through those. I'm going to send the minutes of the November 28th executive session.
To us, yeah, so we can do it.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing I did read.
12:05 I got from, I think I got some Frank, but I didn't know. Just.
For 12:05, no, but, you got it.
Yeah, if I came in here, 5:40, yeah.
So,
Do you wanna just forward us yours and then we'll have?
I think that we should do it tonight.
No, I know,
Yeah.
I didn't mean that not do it, I
Oh,
mean,
on your laptop.
I can look at it on my
Yeah, I didn't
laptop,
see
I
it.
don't need it printed.
And you ended up, that was the one that you took all the corrections and were doing yourself, right?
The 11:28, so yeah, I'll just look at it on my computer, and we don't have to waste any paper.
Do you need it printed, Frank, or you want it to do that?
I have one copy, and
I can print it.
I have a file.
Your copy still came with the edited changes, Justin, right? Because when I opened it up, it gave me the edits.
yeah, I had
Okay, just wanna
everything,
make
should
sure
have
you
had
didn't like take them.
everything, yeah, because sometimes you're right, sometimes I do it where
Frank, do you want me to print it for you?
Which one? Yeah,
The 11:28?
I don't have a one.
Yeah, I didn't print them tonight, because.
He just sent them, Frank, if you wanna. Okay. Oh, I feel a little busy. Okay, so it looks like red is me. Who's blue and who's yellow?
Blue is Justin,
Are you yellow or is Frank yellow?
purple is Frank, where's it is in the second paragraph, section starts with section. This one,
Yeah, is that you or
that's Frank.
Frank? So yellow is Frank, okay. Okay. I have no
And
idea.
there's two blues. The lighter one on mine is you.
Okay, yeah. Ironic that those reds are me, but that, I think, and two unidentified attendees being crossed out was also me.
No, that was me.
That was you?
Maybe you
Okay.
added, I think.
Oh, I think oh, you know what, I replaced the like M and whatever with
Yeah,
that, with
yeah.
just. What does, so Frank's comment, I don't know if it got messed up because the first part of the
Well,
sentence in, under the select board reviewed the software, it's under past classification hearing, that I moved something, the tax rate, and then select board reviewed the software licensing agreement, presented questions. Select board asked if the assessors had been able to get the company to change the state in which arbitration must occur from Georgia to Massachusetts. Then it would read section 18.7, page 11, about choice of law agreement hanging the state the contract is governed by from Georgia to Massachusetts. That, I'm not sure what that
So it
means,
should be changing the state, right?
instead of hanging,
yeah,
yes.
changing this.
Changing the state, the contract is governed by,
Yes.
from Georgia to Massachusetts, okay. that
Which they
makes-
did do.
Yeah.
Yes, no, but you know, this is past tense. So.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting, because a lot of times,
They refuse to do that.
Yeah.
well, they refuse to, change.
Okay, here we go. I'm not gonna not approve things I said. That would not be smart.
What's that?
They changed it.
She saw me scrolling, so she assumed that we were okay.
Oh,
with it.
yeah.
Right. Down in the discussion of overstepping bounds here, Justin offered the potential idea of the town administrator and the department head could terminating an employee?
Yeah, you wrote that.
I wrote that?
I copied
This is why it's really confusing me, cause I'm appearing as red when I pull
No,
up mine.
you are
but I'm
parents,
also
right,
blue.
but you were a comment, and I copied the comment in,
Whatever.
but yeah, change it.
That's hilarious. Would you like terminating? Instead of could terminate an employee, would be the
Yeah,
department head terminating an employee
Yes.
if there was agreement.
not to throw you under the bus.
You know what? I make mistakes too. That's why we have editors.
You're the editor.
Yes, I know, but we catch each other's errors and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. All right. I'm good with the rest of it.
Or, we know what the changes are, Melissa, Susan, we're on the same page.
Okay, so you guys didn't make any changes to anything,
Well, there's,
to the
You're
changes,
fine.
We didn't make changes.
other
to
than terming, so.
So we're accepting all the changes.
well, I
that
thought
were
you had a
said.
couple things.
Yes, we did. So one was making hanging changing.
Yeah, I got that.
And the other was
Terminating.
terminating instead of could terminate.
Yeah.
Two things. Yay.
I'm not,
I move we
approve the select board meeting minutes from November 28th, 2023 as amended.
Second,
Yes,
yes, unanimous, minutes approved. I'm not ready for the other ones, sorry. Minutes of 11:28 are sent from me to you, for discussion next time. Periodic review of executive session minutes for public release. Got a little bit behind the 8 ball. Sounds like a general theme, fortunately, but, did hear back from Don, I think I forwarded it to everyone. I'm gonna run it by David Lawless.
Thank you, that would be great.
It also opens up a more general discussion which Melissa and I will be working on in the coming weeks, which is a lot of executive session minutes. I just wanna get everything squared away. I think I passed along some advice from Donna, so you can mull on that. I think one thing, and I forget how much we've already done it, Melissa, but it's just all the minutes from the Hume lawsuit. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. We went into executive session a few times for litigation strategy. If those are still not released, I think that's kind of a no-brainer, they should be.
Mhm.
You would have been on the board for it, and I just can't quite recall if we released them or not yet.
I know that at one point we released some minutes, but I don't remember what they were for. Like, I remember that we released some when we did one of the reviews, but we
Well, it
didn't
might have
release
been
a bunch of
Hume.
others. It might have been Hume, but I can't recall for sure.
So, but I think that's kind of a no-brainer if those are still unreleased, but I have a list, but it hasn't been updated since like May of 22. But Melissa and I are gonna work on that and come back to the board, and I'm gonna run by David Lawless those particular minutes.
Pertinent to the former clerk.
Yeah.
Okay.
One way or another, and then we'll also, I think it's a good time, while we're at it, to review everything, because we're supposed to.
It's not that heinous, usually you read through them and it's pretty, you can make a pretty good call.
Yeah, it would be a little easier for me, frankly, if it was like, okay, if it's purpose 1, they're exempt for 2 years. And then after 2 years, they're public, right? There's a little bit of a gray area. Next item is just meeting schedule. Yes, not just the planning board, but yes.
Well, let's do the planning board first, because it's probably simpler.
They said they want to meet on Thursday, they said they meet on
They said
second, fourth Tuesday, but they meet Thursday, I think.
And the dates they gave are Thursdays.
Yeah.
The 11th and the 18th, correct?
The 11th or the 25th.
Right, the 25th, right.
That being said, we can plan to have we won't have a heavy agenda, because we'll just go there as a second meeting in the week the way I see it.
Do you have any idea what they are on their agenda with us?
Yes, so the master plan has
Great, the
occurred,
master
and they've been finalizing it, and this meeting is, okay, we have the master plan, and there are certain things the select board could be involved in implementing. Let's present it, talk
Okay.
about it. So some of the things we already know are things like the dark sky bylaw could be a general bylaw that the select board does. There were things on there about use of the recreational areas in town, which might be Parks Commission, but it might be select board. There were things in there about whatnot. So this meeting, as I understand it, is the planning board presenting the master plan to the select board. We can have a discussion about that. And I think in advance of it, we'll try to get everyone a copy of it to review.
It's posted.
Yes, it is.
And by the way,
Yeah.
having spent a ridiculous amount of time recently plumbing other towns' web pages, ours is pretty good. Maybe I'm just used to navigating it, but we have a lot of stuff up there that a lot of other towns don't have up. Just saying. Check out Richmond's website sometime. Just take some Valium before you do it. Try to actually find something on there. Anything. A budget, a warrant,
who works there. Take your pick. 11th or the 25th? Which one are we going for?
Bring us back on top.
I'm pretty open, I think.
I don't have a preference.
No, maybe.
All right, on the basis of having dental work being done on the
Oh, okay.
25th, I'm gonna move for the 11th.
What time would it be? I got a
7.
BOTA meeting.
Oh, I think
Yeah,
7.
Yeah, from 4 o'clock. I mean, I can come back, but sure. So it'd be 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock,
Yeah, no.
Thursday the 11th.
It actually came up as 7 o'clock when I went to add it. I love that.
And
Are they meeting
Is
at
it
the
in Google?
MCC? Pardon?
Is on Google.
No, it's on the
I
iCal.
always find when I hit it, it kind of knows where I want it.
Sometimes I think it does it on the basis of what time it is. But yeah, could be. All right. Now we gotta do our meeting.
Yes. We have a meeting on with the fire company for January 3rd at 5:30, I believe. I wasn't really planning on being there unless there's other agenda items. A couple options. One is we could add other agenda items on January 3rd.
What
Um,
time is the fire company?
5:30. Another option would be meeting January 2nd. So which do people feel is more palatable?
There is a significant chance I won't be here on the 2nd.
Okay,
I would prefer to be here because the alternative is to be in Alabama. So, it isn't that I'm going to, I'd rather not be here. Familial duty, I suspect we'll be returning either the first or the second, but someone's dragging their feet about buying the tickets, throwing them under the bus again. But I just wanna, like, I would really like to be here at the next meeting where we're talking about stuff, so.
well,
Do we wanna do
the other
it?
thing we could do is,
I mean, we could meet on the 4th, are we concerned about how long the fire company meeting will go?
that does seem to have been a concern.
I think it'll probably be an hour at least.
Okay.
Cause it sounds like they have a lot to explain in their proposal.
Okay,
So what if we plan on meeting on the 4th?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
It's-
The
are
4th
we
at
doing the
6 p.m.
6th?
So
Okay.
Thursday,
Thursday, the 4th at 6 p.m. And that will kind of be our regular weekly meeting. And
So you're saying we're gonna move the meeting, we're gonna be meeting every Thursday after that?
no.
No, we're just moving the meeting from the 2nd to the 4th for that week,
Yeah.
and then we'll go
And
back
then
to
we're meeting,
regular
we are
Tuesdays.
meeting the following Thursday, the 11th with the planning board.
But we're also, I have on it, we're meeting tonight too, it's budget season, extra meetings for everybody.
Let me write this down. So we got the fire,
On the 3rd,
or, and then we're gonna meet on,
Thursday, the 4th at 6 p.m. select board.
uh,
Thursday, the 11th at 7 p.m. planning board.
uh,
Quite possibly Tuesday, the 9th at 6 p.m. However, we might be able to,
Delete that if we
Delete that.
get it all done.
let's just see
before.
where we're at.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, do you still wanna stick with the first Tuesday of every month in the morning? Or do you, with your job, do you wanna make?
I'd rather see if it's okay with you all. I mean, I don't, if it's coming up with scheduling.
No,
I mean, I'm happy to weigh in earlier, but, so we're talking January, we're already having a mixed schedule, so we're talking February, March, April. I'm comfortable playing it by ear and seeing if it makes more sense to adjust work. I mean, that's what I've always been doing anyway, but this is just a little bit more rigid of a schedule. Adjust work, or we could kind of just plan on meeting at 6 on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I'm fine with the evening meetings, I prefer them, if we have to make a morning meeting for some purpose, then we do it.
Well, here's the tentative plan then, since we are doing meeting scheduling, let's just tentatively say we're doing 6 p.m. Tuesdays from here on out.
Okay, that's fine.
But we're not gonna change like the website or anything like that. because we're just not gonna we won't officially change the meeting schedule of the select board, which will still be 9 AM on the first Tuesday, but we'll say for a couple months here, we're gonna go 6 PM.
Okay.
Is there a reason to not change it?
Permanently?
Well, just, I don't think of the hours posted on there
Well-
as permanent. They're not permanent,
Okay,
they're the hours we're meeting.
okay, so we are going to be meeting Tuesdays at 6 PM by general consensus from here on out, going forward indefinitely, and the website's changing too.
Okay.
Nothing's permanent, it's only permanent until we change it, and we changed it.
I think since I've been on the board, we've had 8 different meetings scheduled in one day.
It's not a permanent schedule, this is my point.
Since I've been here, there's probably been 16.
Yeah,
When I
I
first
mean,
started, it was 8:30 in the morning, then I went to 12, and then I went back to 9.
And which day, right, because days of,
The days, I think, were always pretty consistent, it was always Mondays for the longest time, but then we went to Wednesdays.
yeah.
some days
When
aren't
did it-
really consistent.
When did it go to Wednesday? What brought that about?
I think it had to do, I think it was when Steve and Ken maybe were on there. And we just found with the holidays, it was too difficult with the signing of the warrants and trying to get business done, because they would just cancel for the week, they wouldn't meet, so we decided to do Wednesday.
And they were doing every other week, so if they skipped a week, it was
Oh,
a month between.
So they really didn't reschedule?
Right.
Okay.
They had and we didn't wanna do Tuesdays, because it wouldn't, we'd kind of be jammed all up after a holiday, so it gave us an extra day to recover.
That's
And we
been,
figured it was in the middle of the week too, so if something happened at the beginning, you could address it, if something, like, I don't know.
I do have to say, I think Wednesday is the ideal day.
I preferred Wednesday too, but I'm rolling with it.
We are where we are.
Thank
Okay,
And I'd rather Tuesday evening than Wednesday morning.
anything else before we're gone?
Have a very nice break. Gentlemen?
You too.
You
Thank
too.
you to everyone, myself, Susan, Frank. Motion to adjourn,
Second.
vote,
Yeah.
Yes.
yes, unanimous, meeting adjourned at 7:47 PM.